we have to create the right vibe, the energy, and everybody at the organization has to feel so privileged to be here. It's no other way.
Thanks for listening to the Purely Arsenal podcast. Please follow us on Twitter at PurelyArsenalFP for all the latest Arsenal podcasts.
Welcome to the sit down at a Purely Arsenal podcast. It's an international break. We're top of the league and we're here to discuss it with Neil Shah. How you doing, Neil?
Very lonely. I'm so lonely, Jack. It's difficult, isn't it, when you're at the top?
Yeah.
It's so lonely. It's cold and lonely at the top of the tree, I tell you.
Yeah, it really is. It is. Yeah, I'll get used to it, though. Get used to it. I'm all right being a loner. Got no problem with that. No problem with that at all. We're talking about that and birthdays. Happy belated birthday. 31 years young, James Johnstone. How you doing, James?
Yeah, no, I'm all good. Thank you very much. It's always got to be happy when you pump a team 3-0 on your birthday, haven't you? You can't complain.
Yeah, absolutely. It was a perfect
could have been
birthday
6 or 7, but yeah,
absolutely. And for the Queen, rest in peace, 96.
Yeah.
Big gooner. From what I'm told anyway, and stuff that I saw online. And what a way for the Arsenal team to send off the only team in the league wearing all black. It was a lack of respect across the
absolutely.
But we were classy with her, and we put a little grey sock number in there as well, which was a nice little treat. I thought I didn't know we had grey socks, to be honest. So we went to Brentford. I'm always apprehensive and nervous. Neil, before any game, to be honest. Less so now, because what I'm seeing now is basically consistency in performances. Like if we were talking last year or the year before, let's be honest, we oftentimes didn't know what we were going to get in terms of performance, because it was so sporadic. We didn't really have a settled side. It was so many reasons, which I don't want to go back to. But this season, the one thing you can say, even for the Man U loss, which we've brushed quickly over, our performances have been relatively consistent. But this game, because of the loss and how we reacted to the loss last season, we lost in clusters, didn't we? I felt, and it obviously was all delayed because, understandably because of games being cancelled, because of the untimely death of the Queen and things like that. It just built up that apprehension for me. And I think I was texting you guys and I was like, it's going to be tough. It's going to be really tough. And Brentford, by the way, before this game, they were second top goal scorers in the league, hadn't not scored in any Premier League game, and we limited them to the least shots they had in the Prem since they arrived in the Premier League, I believe, at the start of last season. I thought, Neil, to get to you after that long spiel, it was our most complete performance, most mature performance of the season from front to back. But what were your overall thoughts on it?
Yeah, I agree. It was a complete performance, total performance. But what I was most impressed with was the attitude. The attitude for many reasons. Number one, to come back off the loss, because that loss hurt them. You could see after the final whistle at Old Trafford, a lot of the players were just dejected. They were hurting, and I think it's because, number one, I felt that we controlled a lot of the game anyway. We played very well in that game. It was a couple of lapses and a change of, too many substitutions made in one go, which I think unbalanced the team, which led to the errors. So to come back from that, I know we had the first Europa game, which we did very well in as well. But that was a slightly different, maybe quite a few changes in that team, which meant that some of the players which had come off the loss hadn't played since. So, to come back from that with a good attitude was incredible. And, you're right. Brentford had scored in every game and it was away at Brentford. And the second reason is coming back from the reversal of last season, where we got so much negative press from that game, and even into this game. The pundits were awful that I was listening to. They were so biased, and they kept on mentioning, that infamous game. They were almost willing Brentford to score. It was that bad. And so they've come off that as well as the loss at Man U. And the attitude was so fantastic. The mentality was great. it just shows now that we can pick ourselves up very, very quickly, Jack. It's not just the in-game pick-up when we concede a goal and get one back very quickly, which we've seen also in this season. It's also how do we react after a loss? And the pressure was on us a little bit because now we're sitting at the top. We're dropped to third after the Saturday games. So that was another test to see how well are we going to respond to that. And look how we did. And it was a response which wasn't just a gritty win, a hard-fought gritty win. It was a complete performance from every player in that park, literally. We stopped them scoring and stopped their record for this season from great performances at the back. Saliba, my God, I think they were all good, but Saliba just stands out for me every single game. Just to point that one little moment, really, I think near just which led actually to the third goal. I mean, he was, I thought at one moment, is he lost that? And his composure and his calmness to just nonchalantly just keep control of the ball and then actually can turn it into an attack was immense. And then, you've got all the usual suspects that we know of. And this is coming back of, having no Odegaard, having no Zinchenko. We were thinking, what's that going to do to our team? Oh, no, it doesn't matter. Let Vieira come in. Let the famous namesake come in. And wow, what a debut. What a debut, which I know you're going to talk about that goal. I mean, goodness me. And, I thought Tierney was all right. He did a job. End of the day, he did a job. So that's all we need from him. So, we can talk about all the other players as we know, but I think it was great. Xhaka, for me, is starting to feel like a new signing, Jack. He really is. I mean, he's just a different player. He's the player that we know. He's just, oh my goodness me, he's the player that we know of from his international role, how he plays there when he plays for Switzerland. And I think he's still captain for Switzerland. I may be mistaken, but, it's just incredible. And he's taken the armband. Obviously, he was a bit reluctant last season. Was it last season where one of the players went to give him the armband and he said no?
It was early last season, if it was. Yeah, you're probably right. And
now that he's embraced his position at Arsenal again, he's happy to be at the club. The fans are warming to him with now even singing a song for him. And everything has changed so much, so drastically. It's a complete U-turn. And my God, he seems to be brilliant in every game. He's become playing, not only doing his role as defender, he made some great movements there, but also going forward. His now mindset is totally different because he's got more time on the ball and he's not rushed. He's got the space and the vision to go forward as well, and he's incredible. So, Jack, I know you were apprehensive, and I know that you're probably concerned about the next couple of games. But I don't think we could be in any better position to really give it a go. And it's nice to feel that it's the first time that, I think all of us as fans are now actually looking forward to the next game because you summed it up. Seasons past, we don't know what we're going to get. It's like Marmite. We just don't know whether it's going to be a good performance or a really bad performance. Now we know that at least if nothing else, whatever the outcome, whatever the officiating is going to be like, we are going to give it our all. And that's the comforting thing.
Yeah, no, I agree with all that, really. I do, yeah, and I am. I'm very excited for the games to come. Of course, still, I mean, it's just sort of a natural way of being. But if I'd been told, 7 games in, we would have won 6 of them. And despite looking at the fixtures and maybe being the favourites for those 6 games, some of those games are really tough to win. Going to Brentford, going to Palace, those are not easy games, as you can see from all the other teams that are close to the top, who have dropped points at similar places already this season, or maybe, even lower level teams already this season. So there's no easy points really in this league. And I just thought it was incredible. James, we're the nuts, mate. We are the bollocks. Do you know what I mean? We are really, really good. And I'm trying to work out, because it's hard to put expectations, but also limitations on a side when you see a side growing in front of your eyes every game. And it wasn't like we had a fully fit first team even out for this team. We had a captain out. We had our starting left back this season out. Obviously Tomiyasu doesn't start right back at the moment. but we also had Thomas Partey back. But so we had some significant players still out of this moment, but we just control games from the start. And we always used to say, like, you can tell what a manager wants to do early on in the game because of how you start a game. And that first minute, that passage of play where Martinelli should have scored but lost his footing, unbelievable. I know Xhaka could have also shot, but I actually thought it was incredible sort of, disguise to give it back to Martinelli. And I was kind of more frustrated with Martinelli myself. But you can tell just from that minute, James, that we're on it. We're ready. We've been waiting for this game since the Man U loss and trying to get back. And that's a huge difference to last season where we felt nervy and worried when we made a loss and confidence looked like it was zapped out of us. Just a massive change, James.
Yeah, no. And I think what it comes down to is like you just mentioned earlier, is that it was the most mature and I think our best performance of the season, because still we've had times where we've all said, we've played in a good spell there, but when is it going to be a full 90 minutes of progression? And that's what we saw at the weekend. It was literally a whole 90 minutes worth of domination from start to end. And I think, like you said about, we're the nuts. We really are, Jack. We really are. Gabriel Jesus has got 14 chances created, which is the most in the league. Then you go to who's third in the league, because De Bruyne is obviously second. He's probably going to win it at the end of the season, but tied is Saka and Martinelli with 12. So you're seeing a front three which is finally in sync, clicking, and they're all singing from the same hymn sheet. And that's what we've wanted for ages, because there's been so much time in the past where we're just like, they look like they haven't been playing football together. You're wondering what's going on, and it seems as though we said it all through when it was the lockdown time, when it was the water breaks, and Mikel Arteta could get them all in a circle. He'd be like, right, smash your heads together. You do this, you do this. And then after that, we'd either score or we'd do something. And we'd be like, it seems as though, I'm like, bloody hell, more water breaks, please, because that's when he comes into fruition as a manager. And I don't know if it's because we had that extra week where obviously, like we said, the untimely death of the Queen and what have you gave us that extra week's worth of preparation. But I also do think, like you said, the loss against Man United meant that we had to be on it. And by gosh, were we on it? Touching back on that Man United loss just quickly, I don't think we played particularly badly in that game. We just got smashed twice on the counter. But we just did two silly things and got punished for it. And I can't say anything about, there's no glaring error in that game from anybody. Nobody had a performance that was terrible in the Brentford game. So long may it continue, because I know we're going a game at a time. That's how I want to do it. But we've got three games at home next. So there's no travelling involved there. So, if we just crack on, do what we've been doing, and finally we can shut these people up, like you said, because they're still going on about it, Jack. And, we've not played anybody in the top 6. I'm like, but you're playing people that are below the top 10, that when last season we dropped points to them, we were a shambles and an embarrassment. Yet when you're doing it, it's Premier League's hard. It's difficult to Prem.
Yes, proper narrative, isn't there? I thought about that a little bit when I was seeing. I thought, what would the media be saying right now? And it's early days. No one's getting carried away at Arsenal in terms of Arsenal fans. We know what the expectations were at the start of the season, and I still maintain that in terms of getting back in the Champions League, etc. But if it was another club other than Man City or Liverpool that were top of the table right now, the narrative would be really different in this 2-week break. Like in terms of, how positive, look, are they in the race? You're not hearing any of that. In fact, the most thing I've heard is about Nwaneri, the 15-year-old coming on, and what an uproar that's created amongst Arsenal's academy, etc. which is incredible. I've looked at a few different, obviously pretty poor sources, but just stuff that you see, and I'm just like, I'm feeling it again. I'm starting to feel that. When you're starting to see that sort of stuff, you can sense that people are a little bit worried about what we might be doing here at this club. To be honest,
I was just about to say that to you, mate. I'm like, the fear factor's slowly coming back.
Yeah, it's nice, isn't it? And we're under the radar. I'm not saying much either, because it's early days and we've got, we've still got a lot of tough tests to come. But in terms of the way we're playing, I think people are sleeping a little bit on the way we're playing, because the way we're playing, we always said that for the last 2 years on this podcast, I've said it so many times, performances breed results, right? And it doesn't matter if you get a great result against, a Liverpool at home where you've had 3 shots and they've had 25, because longevity-wise, that is not sustainable. But what is sustainable is what you just said there. Martinelli's created 12, Gabriel Jesus created 14, Saka's created 12, yet having a poor season or something. But it's clear we're repeating performances where we're dominating games, we're higher up the pitch, we're not allowing them. And the only concern with the Man U game, James and Neil, is that is similar to what I expect Tottenham to play against us in. And I'll get to you, Neil, on that. And we have to be better. And I think we were in this game, but obviously less a threat. But we have to be better at, if we do lose the ball, to not be so vulnerable when we lose it. And I think Thomas Partey makes a huge difference to that, and we'll get to him as well. But Neil, so I guess we'll touch on a few of the key moments and the key players of the game. You touched on him at the start of the podcast, William Saliba. But he's turned, Neil, he's turned up with 2 goals in 7 now. I know it's just early days, but he's not something that he's really shown too much of. I think even in France, he's not got too many goals or anything like that. Maybe he's looking at Gabriel beside him and going, yeah, I'm going to take a bit of the positives out of this bloke, because Gabriel, the one thing you can say for him, whether he's makes the odd error or whatever, he is lethal in the box. But what's really great, Neil, is we've always been vulnerable from set pieces, but now we are proper dangerous from them. We are a unit out there. Do you know what I mean? When you walk out, I got 2004 vibes. They're all 6'3", 6'4".
Yeah.
We're basically a track and field team, but we can play a bit of the football very well. It's fantastic, Neil. But touch on the goal, mate. And Saliba overall, he's just unbelievable. I've got no more words for it. Just incredible football. I think he's best centre back in the league at the moment.
Oh, 100%. Look, you what you just said there about track and field. We've got speed, aggression, physicality, and
no drugs.
And no drugs. No asthma inhalers, and we've got the skill as well. And that was a big piece of the menu for that great team of ours. I can draw quite a few likenesses with that team. Obviously, we can't compare. You can never do that, but there are some likenesses, and it's very, very positive, and it's all good omens for me. Saliba, I think Saliba's just enjoying himself. I think he's enjoying his role at Arsenal, and I think that's the big thing. You say that he's done everything but probably score goals before. Now he's scoring goals. I think it's because he's enjoying himself, and he's just I don't know what to say about him. His head's dropped a couple of times, or could have dropped a couple of times because of the errors and whatnot. And I think you're absolutely right about the counter. I think, but probably if there is a weakness in our team, it's that. It's how do we, create a defensive mechanism against that counter attack, and that is what Tottenham are going to do. Conte's definitely going to set them up like that. So we've got to be wary. But hopefully, the way Arteta is also progressing with his way of managing. He's probably watched that Man United game over and over. From what I'm learning of Arteta, he's almost a bit like Wenger was. He just eats, sleeps, and drinks football, and he's focused on it. So I would have liked to think that he's watched that thoroughly, and hopefully that will maybe mitigate any errors that we may see in that counter attacks. That we're a little bit. I don't know. There's a bit of fragility there within our team with respect to that. But yeah, Saliba is just immense, and look. He's given us that threat in the box now. He's given that additional threat. And I think it's so important that we didn't used to do anything like this. I remember it had been so long before we'd scored from a corner, or it was very, very fleeting. We'd score maybe the odd goal here or there, but it would we'd moan, we'd say, can these guys not take a proper corner? Can the corner execution itself, it's not even going into any danger areas. It's not finding any players. But now it just seems to be that when we get a corner, we feel like we're going to score. It's the complete opposite. It's a complete role reversal. And that is due to, I think, we started seeing that last season, right? I think, James, one of you two mentioned the set-piece coach that we've got now, and he's completely turned it around. And now he's not only from what he's probably coaching and teaching, but it's also he's got the players to execute what he wants as well. Because of that height that we've got, because of that strength. And I think that's it. We've just got those big guys now, almost akin to that great team, which can start now almost mimicking what we used to do before. It's just a threat all over the place. So that's the difference. We've got goals coming from different areas, as you guys just mentioned earlier, from different players causing different threats. So it's not just on, in the move and, during play itself, but set pieces. And I think that is striking the living fear into teams. They're not saying it yet. Of course, the media are not saying it yet, because obviously we've not played anyone. We've just played non-league teams so far. So no one in the Premiership. So, it's not big, but I think there is a definite fear. And that's the important thing. But Saliba, I think he's going to go from strength to strength. And look, guys, don't worry if you are fearing that he hasn't signed his contract. Believe you me, he will sign.
Well, I love the interview. I love the interview. The interview is so. First of all, you have to ask, why is he sitting down to do that interview? He doesn't have to sit down and do an interview. I presume he's agreed to it or said, yeah, let's get on and chat about it. He's starting to feel at home. He says he feels settled in London, which is great as well, because we don't have a big French contingent. He's come from France, 2 years playing in France, but you can tell even in the little clips that you see that the players love him. They love him. Gabriel loves him. You can tell. He knows he's playing alongside the best centre back in the league here. Of course he loves him. I'd love him if I was playing alongside him.
Jack, did you see him arrive to France for international duty?
Now, I saw him
He's one
arrive in
of
a
the
deal.
only people that I've seen wear white jeans and not look a tosser.
Yeah.
That's how good he is. He can wear white jeans and not look like a tosser.
He's done.
It's unbelievable.
Yeah.
It's unbelievable.
And that's the point, man. I mean, he does a little Dior t-shirt, Rolex on.
Love him.
He's loving it. He knows he's already got the money coming in from the new contract, doesn't he? That's the thing.
Yeah.
He's going, I've got it. It's on the table. I'm going to buy stuff early and get paid back next month. That's what he's saying.
I don't want to call us mystic, mate, but we called it. His agent and him are going to play it as if to be like, look, you're telling me that I'm in there. You've got to prove to me that I'm in. And fair play to Arteta. He could have easily have gone last year. Oh, no, that Ben White and that Gabriel partnership, I'm not breaking that up. Yeah. But he sees that this guy is that good. Yeah. I'm going to have to break it up. And you know what? Ben White don't get enough credit. Fair play. He's gone out there in a position that's not his. And he's doing his business. And, you mentioned, I don't want to get over the top on the comparisons to that 2014, but there was a guy there that was a central defensive midfielder in Lauren, and he got told to move back, and he never complained, and he done his job.
Yeah.
And,
exhibiting a lot of the same characteristics.
You've had him on the show.
Yeah.
He's a great player, was Lauren. Great player.
Exactly.
Didn't really get the credit until I think after he left. A bit like Gilberto.
Yeah.
You didn't notice it until he left, when you were like, bloody hell, he was good, wasn't he?
Yeah. And you just don't know. I mean, I think it's a big... can't praise Arteta enough, but I remember us last season saying that's the acid test for Arteta, is what he does with Saliba, because there's no pushing this out to saying an attitude issue or like Guendouzi or something like that, because the quality is just so clear. He's not just jumping out of you from the page. We cannot let this player go. He is literally going to start for us. And we said it when a lot of people, in fairness, were saying, oh, he's not proven in the league. He's just playing in the French league. You don't know. I was like, sometimes sometimes you just need to watch a guy and he's starting for us the moment he walks back in, and I don't care who's leaving the team for him or who's shifting, he's starting for us. But again, with Ben White, you can't, he was bought in on paper as a centre-back, a 50 million centre-back, right? The most expensive player in our back line. And to be shifted out, some people with a lesser character would have taken that and been disheartened or frustrated. And he's exhibited no signs of that. In fact, he's supporting Saliba all the time. He looks like he's really taken to the right back position, right, and sort of said, okay, this is my way into this team now, and realised that he's amongst a team that he's just building so quickly that he better make sure he performs in that position, because otherwise he might find himself out of position. And now we're sitting there going, well, where does Tomiyasu get in? And last season there was points where we were saying before he got injured, Tomiyasu was a clear front runner for player of the season. So that just shows how, but that's all fantastic for the team. It's probably fantastic for Tomiyasu too, to give his calves a little bit of a break. So it's all good things coming up through there. And I thought the flick on from Saliba, we're doing a lot of that near post sort of hits, and I think Saka's pretty good from the dead balls, isn't he? I mean, he's second top assist maker in the league behind De Bruyne, even though he's having a poor season. My brother texts me every game saying we should drop him. My first point is, for who? And the second point is, he's definitely not having a bad game. But he's just so involved, Saka, all the time, that I'm someone that, clearly he's not got his shooting boots on at the moment, but I'm someone that forgives all that, because how can you not, with the build-up play that he's got? You just can't.
Well, I think near the end, I think that Raya made a brilliant save. I know a lot of people.
Yes, to the right.
A lot of people are going on about, he should have been scoring that. I'm like, no, that's a class save.
Great goal.
Like, honestly,
great
it's a really,
save.
really good save.
Then there was the early one from the Fabio Vieira pass where he just went to the right and he lashed it over the bar. That was what I was thinking of. I was like, okay, he's a bit too eager in front of goal at the moment, but they're going to come. I mean, he scored against United. They're going to come, no problem. So 1-0 up, and then the second goal and the third goal, but they're all great. But the second goal is a thing of beauty in terms of team play there, wasn't it?
I thought he was going to go for James. Sorry. Well, what can you say? Absolutely Arsenal-esque, isn't it? It's our typical fluid play, team getting involved. But the second goal, I have to give, as good as the execution was from Jesus, for me, that is all Xhaka. And I can't believe I'm always like going to be, for me, the whole pod's going to be about him. I cannot believe that I would have ever sat here thinking that I'm going to be praising Xhaka to, the hilt, but he deserves it. He deserves it. I mean, even from this defensive, do you remember, I think, was it near the end of the game where he literally ran all the way back and he stopped that ball near, going into the net or cutting the execution out. And that it just shows to me he's become almost like a box-to-box player. But, it's the execution. And what I liked about it was how he looks around both ways. So he's on receiving the ball, checking where if there's players coming onto him, there's got a man on him, and he knows that everything is clear. And then he looks up to see how Jesus' movement. And that's the other thing. Talking about movement, our off-the-ball movement has just gone up exponentially. So do you know there was a long time, I think even the Wenger era, a point where we would create some really great sweeping attacking moves, but there'll be no one there to receive the ball. That used to happen quite a lot. And you say, why aren't players? Ramsey then came and changed it when he came on, and he would be running all over the place and trying to get ahead and get in front of the defenders and whatnot. But we never had anyone there in the box, and now it seems like they instinctively know where they need to be. And I just love the way Xhaka looked up. He looked behind him, then he looked forward. He saw where Jesus was going to be, and that delivery was a peach. It was perfect. If any of the top players in the world had done that, they'd be going, look at that. It was brilliant. And so, all right, Jesus still had to execute it, and it was a great execution of a header. But it was given on a plate to him because of the beauty of that pass. And it was just epitomises everything about us at the moment this season, that goal. It really did. And just before, if Joseph wants to add something more to it, that's fine. But just before I stop, you touched on a thing about how good we are looking at set pieces in an attacking way. We're also looking good when we're defending set pieces and corners because of that physicality now, because of that height, because of those big defenders. We're not scared anymore, which I think you were right. You said last season, that opening game against Brentford, we looked nervy, we looked nervous. I just don't think we are anymore. And all the players are there for each other. They're backing each other up when we're defending, when we're attacking. If someone makes a mistake or loses the ball, there's another one of our guys there to help them out. They're playing for each other. And I think that's so important with the thing you mentioned about Ben White. Yes, he's been moved out of position, but I think he's almost accepted it because he knows it's for the good of the team. It's for the good of where Arteta's vision is and where he's going with it. It's fantastic stuff. I'm so happy. Go on, James. You add to that goal if you like.
Yeah, no, it was absolutely excellent. Jesus, he's got the spin on the ball already from Granit Xhaka that makes that header go in. He just guides on the swaz from Granit Xhaka's pass, and it's amazing the turnaround for Granit Xhaka really this season. Jack, we speak a lot about what players has Mikel Arteta improved, and people will go Saka
number one.
But Granit Xhaka's got to be up there as well for me.
Yeah,
the turnaround in this guy. He's done an interview as well, and he said, the second day that Mikel Arteta was there, he told him, "I want to go.
Yeah, amazing that interview, isn't it, really?
Yeah, and Mikel said to him, okay, if I can't change you, but he went, can you just, it's still time until the window's open. Can you just give me what you normally give and everything, and then we'll look at it? And then he said he went home and spoke to his wife, and he said that Mikel's changed his mind.
Unpack your bags.
Yeah,
basically what he said, didn't he? No, he did. It was part of it. It said his bags were packed. I'm sure he was, maybe he wasn't exaggerating, but he basically said bags are packed at the door because he was leaving that. We wanted to leave that window, and there was an offer in and stuff. But but I mean, on the day for the guy, he was my man of the match. I know a lot of people said that Xhaka was in there. I think the club itself gave it to Vieira, and obviously, if you go on the sofa score, Prem gave it to Jesus, didn't they? The man of the match on the league.
Oh, really? Oh, I don't know.
Maybe not the club, but the Prem.
Because Sofa Score, which I use a lot for the old stats and everything, they gave it to Saliba, which still,
basically we're just the nuts. Just give it to anyone.
Yeah. When you've got everyone's got a different opinion on it. That's when you know that you've got a good team and you had a good game. But for me, 89% on his passing, 3 of them were key passes, and 1 led to an assist. Can't really moan about him, and I think he had 1 interception and one key tackle as well, as they like to call it. Other than his silly booking, I thought he was superb. And you want to talk just quickly on Jesus. He could have had a hat-trick that game. He had 2 chances in the second half as well, especially the one again where Xhaka made that late sort of pass to him as he was sort of falling over, and then he did that with his feet, what he normally does, and he got in there, and it was another good save. And then the third one was the one where I'm trying to think if it was Ben Mee or whatever. You thought, oh, he's got this, and then all of a sudden, Jesus just powers through him, and then he's on a 1-on-1, and then he produces another good save. That was when he was cutting in off the left. That's the one I think where you said Eddie should have been following that in. And I
I remember that now. I'm trying to remember what you're saying, but I remember saying that live. I was like, he's followed that, and he's got a goal there. Yes.
But no, and the only worrying thing for me about Jesus at the moment is he's on 4 bookings. Yeah. And the way that he plays,
silly booking as well.
The way that he plays, he's going to get booked again.
And he gets suspended, won't he?
Well, that's it. You can't go to him like, "Am I not going to get you booked before the World Cup and the New Year starts?" Where all the cards to come.
Yeah, well, the problem is if he gets booked in the next game, he misses Liverpool, doesn't he? So
that's the thing. I'm like, either in the Derby or the Liverpool game, he's potentially going to get wound up by something.
I'd take it in the Liverpool game because it means he misses Leeds. So you don't want him to miss any game, but he's do you know what I mean?
So, can I just ask? Sorry, can I just go? I'm probably wrong, but if he gets booked before the Europa game, will it not affect the Europa, or does it just affects the Prem?
No, it's just it's only domestic.
I think it affects Carling Cup. So in an ideal world, you get him booked before the Carling Cup game, I presume, because it does affect the Carling Cup game, doesn't it? Yeah. So I don't know when that is, or
November
at home in that
4th, I think.
Yeah, so I mean that's a long way away. The way he's going, you'd wonder.
I've got no real reservations with Eddie at the moment. He's not doing anything that's making me go, for God's sake. But he's nowhere near the level that.
No, and the problem there, James, is as good as Eddie looks, and he does. I mean, I'm definitely, if I'm saying it, because I've definitely been harsh on Eddie in the past, but you don't want him ideally coming into one of the big ones. Do you know what I mean? You want him to, do you know what I mean? So you just, but we can't worry about it at the moment, can we?
There's the way as well that in the Brentford game, especially, I saw it more the first half than I did the second, but there were just times where Jesus was just like, going to Gabriel Martinelli. He's like, tuck in there a bit, mate. I'm going to sit in this left channel and try and drift it. And I don't even think that was coached. I think that's just them two.
Yeah.
On the fly, you go centrally, Gabriel, and I'll tuck in here a bit. And it's just class.
Oh, really that's a good point, James. That's a great point, because we've been very critical of the past that all the players keep looking at Arteta on the lines thinking, are we doing this right? Are we doing... They don't seem to be doing this as much of that anymore. No. And it's like Arteta is always going to be animated, and fair play to him. That's his style, and that's the way he coaches. But I don't see them like almost tentatively keep looking over, and they're just playing their game now. And I think this has got full confidence in all the players, which is another positive. I mean,
Jesus got nominated. I know we hate it, but he did get nominated for the leadership group. So, if Xhaka's not the vice, then it's Jesus, which is the vice. And I mean, he's only 25 years old, but it's because this guy's a champion.
Yeah,
he's leading by example. I mean, look at him. I mean, you mentioned that a third chance, or right at the end, the way he powered through. It wasn't just one defender; he powered through two defenders.
Yeah.
We thought, he's lost that. There's no way he's getting that, and he just got it back, and he still created a chance.
I'm trying to think, Neil, of other strikers that I've seen, especially in terms of Arsenal, that aren't the biggest, stature-wise, but they're that strong. And the only one I can really think of is when Sanchez played down the middle.
Yeah.
At Arsenal, I think Luis Suarez at Liverpool.
Yes,
there was that. But I know what you mean. He's just a nightmare, isn't he? He's a nightmare for defenders. He's so strong, brilliant. Back to goal, on the run, on the shoulder. And like you said, he's leading us. And I think he's exactly what we needed, because he's 25, but he's vastly experienced at this level. I mean, for a 25-year-old. And that's basically our MO, isn't it? It's buy young players, but if we can, buy young players with top-level experience. And that's basically what we've done in Jesus and Zinchenko, I think. Which is made a huge difference to the first.
Has he already beat Lacazette's tally already from last year or something?
He might have done. Yeah, he's also got 3 assists as well as the 4 goals. Xhaka's got 3 assists.
I mean, I don't want to dig Lacazette out, but at the same time, it just shows that these lads needed movement. They needed, and. Yeah, Neil's always said it: pace. It's just
exactly. And what's great about him is Jesus. He's so adaptable in terms of making us a much more fluid front three. He's not rigid, And when I watch City, it is quite interesting, because obviously you sign Haaland and things look easy, because you can not be perfect with your passing, but create one chance for him and it's a goal, and he's just elite. I mean, it's unbelievable. But unless you're signing that big statured player that isn't involved very much, that is elite, you've got a real problem if he's not elite. Darwin Núñez at the moment being a prime example of that, right? Or, you can look elsewhere, but Liverpool were used to playing like a Firmino. Now, prime Firmino was very much like Jesus in the sense of always involved, dropping deep, going long, right? But when you watch Darwin Núñez, unless he's banging them in every week, which he isn't, in terms of his technical ability, it's way off what they're used to from a central position. Way off it. And I personally think, even when I watch Haaland, his build-up play is probably a little bit undervalued, but it's not great. It's no way near the level of Jesus's. But what Haaland has is an elite, absolutely elite robotic finisher, which is just mental. But for us, unless you can find, and there's not many of them, right? You've got Lewandowski, Haaland, Benzema. Right, there's just not many of them. So unless you can find the ones in the top echelon, what you want is a player that is... Jesus is right there then, because he's giving you everything that you want in terms of the fluidity of your football and interchange of position, and he's helping those wingers so much. They must absolutely love playing with him, I think.
I know it's sad for him, but I'm sort of glad that he didn't get picked.
Yeah, I think Edu's had a little word there, because all three.
Totally agree, James. Totally agree with you.
Yeah. No, I'm like, no, you have Richarlison, you go out there and play, mate, because we've got you.
Keep our Brazilian. Well, hopefully Edu being in there.
Yeah.
That's what I'm thinking. I'm looking at it going, Edu's got an in there.
No, I'll have him fresh and fit for that derby, please. Thank you.
100%.
Well, now we've got the Brazilian trio. We've got Ben White, because Southgate's a mentalist, back home. I don't know how, but I think Thomas Partey and Odegaard has gone, I think, somehow on international duty, which is mental. He's gone to be assessed. I saw something about him even being...
I think Partey played already, didn't he? Because he posted some pictures with his kit on. I think they had the game yesterday.
Jesus Christ, no way. That's bigger too, turn around. No, because oh my gosh, that'd be terrible. But they apparently were in contact. I'm worried, obviously, about that. But again, you touched on Xhaka. We'll go to James a little bit, but he's so much better when Thomas Partey's next to him. We all are. I mean, I think defensively we're so much better when Thomas Partey's there. But for large parts of these games, because it wasn't one of those games it wasn't like there was a vast amount of chances in this game. It wasn't like we were pummeling their goal as such. But I was just watching Partey and in his maintenance of his position in order to just sort of stick around that centre circle and just basically regurgitate the ball and just win it back. So I don't think he got out of third gear, James, to be honest. I mean, he just looks like glides. He just glides, wins the ball back, gives it off, pops it off, wins the ball back, gives it off. And in this game, more than even any maybe this season, I was just watching him. I was like, yeah, you're another level, to be honest. You are just another level in terms of that position. And it's so hard to repeat. And I think Lokonga's done tremendously well at trying to do that. I know he had his issues at Man U, but I still think he did way better than what we expected him to do when he came in. When him and El Neni were out, we were like, oh, great, we're going to have to play Lokonga there. And we were all worried a little bit. But, mate, Partey I thought he was also brilliant in this game and doesn't get much credit because it was a quiet performance in that sense, but he was so good.
Oh yeah, no, he just does the stuff that's underappreciated, and we've always said it that we've had players play that position, but sadly, I know it's a very, very basic thing. None of them can turn very well. This guy can receive the ball from any of that back four, and then he can turn and progress the play. When you've got Xhaka, he can turn left, he can't turn right. Lokonga, he's the same. He can turn right, but he can't turn left. So you've got this guy that can go, I can go that way, I can go this way, and then I just play the ball to who I need to play it to. And like you said, regurgitating the ball. Just he's on one. He's just everywhere. He's like, I'll go here, give me that, give it away, keep going, keep playing. And that's what you need. I mean, Rodri's the best in the league at it. For me, I did the guys. That's the top of the top. But Thomas Partey, if he carries on this level, he's right there. He's right there next to him. Really, really impressed. Really, really good play.
Problem there is we've just got to keep him fit, and he's got to keep himself fit. Both, I mean, you think I read somewhere he's played 58% of the games at Arsenal, so you can't say he's at Rodri's level if he's not playing. He's just got to play.
Yeah, I think he's never played. Is it 10 in a row?
Yeah, it's worrying. It's worrying because it's repeat injury, James. When you see repeat injuries to similar areas, you get worried about it. It's what we saw with Aaron Ramsey over the years. So worrying. We've got to manage him better. We've got to trust in Lokonga for certain games, I think, whether we, want to or not, especially in this month of October. Cannot have Partey starting in all of those games, just can't. But obviously for the big ones, what's good about this is, he's had a few weeks out, but he just rolls back in. And what the sign there is, he doesn't need that warm-up game or that refresher game. So you can take him out when needed. For those midweek Europa League games, he shouldn't be even in the squad. And I would argue as well for games at home against perhaps the bottom half, we should consider what we're doing there with him, whether we're taking him off early, like we did in this game. We took him off after 60 minutes, I think, didn't we? But obviously we were 3-0 up. But we have to manage him and Kieran Tierney to a certain degree, because it looks like at left back we've got an issue where both players struggling to stay fit. We need to manage him because we certainly don't have El Neni for the rest of the year, probably until January. So, we've got to be clever with it, because we're obviously a little bit short there. We didn't sign the central midfielder that we wanted. A couple of things that really made me laugh in the game was Ben Mee's just a laughable defender anyway, but he made a crunching tackle on Fabio Vieira early on, sort of to say, welcome to the Premier League, son, kind of thing, like I'm going to put it on you. But Fabio Vieira soon shut him up with a 30-yard ping whippy delish into the top right. So I thought that was beautiful. But Neil, third goal, let's talk about Fabio Vieira. What was your thought? Do you know what's really interesting? I was thinking when I was watching the game, I was kind of, is he involved enough? Is he going to be strong enough for the league? Obviously beautiful on the ball. I wonder if Smith Rowe was fit, whether Vieira starts or not. And I think he probably would have anyway. And I wonder what your thoughts are on Vieira, not just the goal, but on what type of player you think he is, like in terms of the mix between him because I think he's a little bit closer to Odegaard than Smith Rowe is. That's kind of where I'm going with it. But what's your thoughts?
Yeah, I think he's a tremendous player. I think he's a great signing. My only worry was his physicality. I thought, oh my God, he's going to get destroyed in the Prem. And wow, in a way, I'm thankful to Mr. Mead, because he's done that, and we're thinking, oh shit, yes, he's done for the season. And he came back up, yeah. He just got back up and got on with it. I thought, God, what is his matchstick feet, legs and arms made of? Because maybe titanium, because it didn't seem to affect him at all. But he's obviously a strong player. You don't necessarily have to have the beef on you to be strong, and he's proven it. And I think he's great. I think you're right. I mean, I don't want to do Emma Smith Rowe a disservice. I no way I want to do that, because I think no. I'm not saying you are, Jack, but I think you're right. I think in this situation, because say he was fit for this game, and there was a choice to be made, I think that Arteta would have gone Vieira, because he played well in Europa. He had a good cameo, albeit in part of a loss. He had a good cameo against Man U. And I'm just thinking, you've got to give him a go. And of course, what we're not privy to is what we see in what they do in training. And obviously, he's impressing. And he did impress. I think he's got he's got that creativity. God, we got creativity all over. We were worrying about where was our creativity coming from. Now we got probably too much of it. There's abundance of it all over the bloody shop.
For you ago, it was Joe Willock, mate.
Yeah. God, don't. Yeah, well, there you go. What can I say?
Look how far we've come. Let's be on. No offense, Joe.
It's very true. It's very true. I mean, if you think about it, this is now becoming Arteta's team, isn't it? And that's the big thing. I think he came into the job. It wasn't his team. It wasn't his players. But now he's made it. And I'm so glad that Xhaka is part of that, because Xhaka is still a Wenger signing. And yes, Wenger knew, didn't he? Wenger knew all those years ago, but
people giving him sticks, and he didn't know. He should have played him in. And I'm like, well, he didn't sign him. He's not giving him some credit. But I know what you mean.
You know what I mean.
Yeah, I know.
Vieira, no. Or I think he's going to give us so much more. We were worrying, and I know the position he played in is probably an excellent place for him to sit, but I believe that he can play on the right as well. So we have got that little bit of mitigation of Saka being overplayed, and who do we have now? Because we didn't sign anyone in that position. I'm sure Vieira will slot in nicely there, so that's an added bonus. But the goal, I mean, and look, you guys, everyone's mentioning, Saka's not playing his best. Well, who assisted that goal? It was Saka, and who started it? Saliba. I mean, what can you say? But what a goal! I mean, he knew what he wanted to do, because he looked. Look, okay. If I'm going to be play a little bit of devil's advocate, I have to say Brentford were sitting back, and they were allowing us the opportunities to press, the opportunities to have the time. They were. Maybe another team might not give us that, but that's not taking anything away from us, because we were brilliant. We were brilliant. I hate it when people say, "Oh yeah, but they didn't play that well," which allowed Arsenal to do this. But no, hang on. I see it the other way around. I see it. We played so well. We didn't allow the opposition to do what they needed to do, and he had that. He collected the ball from Saka, and he just knew what he wanted to do, and it was a fantastic goal on debut.
Neil, you make a great point. You make a great point, because after the game, Thomas Frank, who I actually quite like, he done his interview. I do too. He did his interview, and even some of the Brentford players. I mean. Ivan Toney said, okay, I think it was a bit cringe that I saw tweets again after the game, but he went there a completely different side. He went there a completely different side to what we played the year before. And Thomas Frank said it. And Thomas Frank said, if you don't think they're a title contender, then there's something wrong with you. Because he's like, look at them. He's like he was going on about Saliba, he was going on about Jesus, he was going on about how Xhaka's changed, and Saka, Martinelli. He even said this Vieira lad's come in and scored a goal like that against.
Very complimentary,
yeah.
James, listen. If pretty much every match so far, all of us are having this debate about who should be man of the match. That says it all.
I know.
That says it all.
Yeah, and I mean the goal was so good he didn't know he scored it at first. Yeah. He had to be told that's got in, mate. He's like, oh yes.
And I love the way he patted the badge straight away, just running to the badge.
And do you know what was I kind of thought about some of the comments Edu made about Fabio Vieira, because obviously he had the injury in pre-season. We haven't slept on him, but he's delayed him, hasn't it? Because of but he's got to remember he's a 30 million signing, so we signed him for a reason here.
Exactly. Yeah, I was just about to say, what was he, 30 odd mil? So.
Yeah, so you don't sign a 30 million player, not at Arsenal, unless you've got a significant reason to bring him into the first team setup pretty soon. Obviously there's the Saliba exception, but I think under this management, Edu and Mikel Arteta, you're not doing that, But they I remember them mentioning that they actually spoke a lot about his body weight, and they wanted to keep the weight off him. They said, we don't want to gain weight in him at the moment.
Interesting.
because they don't want to affect his technical attributes yet. So they don't want to move him on that yet. They want him to focus on his football and integrate him with the team and not worry about sticking him in the gym for too long. And when you think about it, a lot of those sort of technically gifted players at City, like Bernardo Silva and David Silva and Mahrez, they're very slight. And if you look at his lower body, it's not slight at all. His lower body is actually pretty stacked, to be honest. It's quite strong. Just the upper body, very, very slight, gives this deceptive look. He's certainly not a Hector lettuce wrap Bellerin or anything. I mean, it's a little bit different. He's just his upper body is, But you spoke about.
He reminds me a lot of Bernardo Silva.
Yes,
I've only seen him in 3 games.
Yeah, and do you know what?
He's got that Bernardo Silva vibe to him, to me.
Yeah, very good on the ball, that left-footed cutting inside. But what's interesting, as much as I liken him to Odegaard, there is no way that Odegaard takes that shot. No way. That's very true. Yeah, that is very true. And that's when I thought, okay, he's actually got a bit more attributes of like a young Ozil. Not that he would have taken that shot either, but he seems, if I was to pinpoint something that he's different than anyone we've got, I'd say his attention to detail on his final ball is really good. Like, the goal against Zurich, for example, like attention to give that Eddie that ball, or remember that pass at United where it should have got to Martinelli, but it didn't. Like that focus on that final ball and playing it quite early, I've noticed as well. He played a couple to Saka in this game, just playing it quite early, a little bit earlier than Odegaard would. But obviously Odegaard's involvement in the overall play and his ability to track and his energy is just unbelievable. So they've obviously got different attributes. But like you said with Smith Rowe, I agree with you, Neil, on Smith Rowe. I just feel he's sort of like he's like more of a player that works off the ball. He's a runner with the ball. He's an off the ball player. He's a final third entry player, mimicking a little bit, not quite the same, but like Ramsey did from central midfield. Like he's that guy that sort of, makes those runs into the box. So he's not really a number 10, is he, Smith Rowe? Let's be honest. I mean, he's got the number 10 shirt, but he's not actually that position. I just wonder if we're getting to a point where if everyone's fit, only certain players will cover certain positions. So maybe Smith Rowe's role is just to cover Martinelli position when he, maybe the Xhaka position, I don't know, something like that. But I wonder if we're getting to that point where the squad depth is there a little bit better.
I agree with you as well, but I think that the good thing about this and the luxury we now have is he can still play those other positions, and he does them fairly well. So there's options. If ever there's disaster, we have the options, and that's where we've got the depth now. And I can't see him not featuring once he's fit, because we've got so many games. He'll definitely get minutes. So I'm not concerned at all. And I like him a lot, Jack. I like him a lot. There was one point in one of the pods, maybe last season, must have been last season, where we were saying that if he has a good run and he stays fully fit, because he was coming in a lot as a substitute last season, remember, and he was doing well. He was scoring goals. Yeah, and we thought that at some point he might even eclipse Saka's ability. It's been mentioned that he's got a lot of raw talent, and he's a difficult player to contend with from a defensive point of view. He is, and it's all very good, because we've got this attacking ethos now within the club, whereas we never had it before. We didn't know where goals were coming. I mean, look how few goals we scored in the last 2 seasons, and now it's like Christ. Yeah. It's like coming from everywhere. So I'm not worried at all, mate, about him. Not at all.
The one worry we might have, though, James, at the moment is, despite the lack of games in the last few weeks, we are picking up a lot of injuries on the training ground. Now, we don't know. Maybe this is us being more cautious than we were a year ago, when we were maybe we would have played Odegaard and Zinchenko a year ago if we didn't have a player in that position. Do you know what I mean? Like, that's what I was thinking yesterday. I was like, because when I saw Odegaard go on international duty and stuff like that, maybe we play Odegaard last year, and what happens? It culminates in that point of losing 3 or 4 against Tottenham away and having to play Cedric at right back and all that kind of stuff. So maybe the depth thing is maybe one of the things we've talked about is if someone is not, close to 100%, maybe we're not chucking them in when we don't have to, if there's the coverage there. I don't know. But again, it is a little concerning, James. Obviously, this game, we had coverage, but when it's, a Partey or a Saka in positions, maybe we don't have coverage as clearly, we'll be a bit worried, because we are, there is certain positions that we clearly don't have that coverage that maybe we would like, isn't there?
Oh, 100%, mate, 100%. you just got to roll with it, sadly, and see what happens. I mean, there's a lot of talk about the depth, but in these areas, like you said there, with Vieira coming in, he looks like he can handle that, that role there. Tierney is getting, I think we all mentioned it. He's not a bad, you don't become a terrible player overnight. And the more and more that he plays, the better he will be. And in that Europa game, I think he was playing a bit more like how Zinchenko has been playing. So he's going to have to grow into that role. And I didn't think he put a foot wrong against Brentford the other day. I think he done what he needed to do. He wasn't doing the usual, I'm going to run out here and cross at nauseam game that we used to do. He just looked very, like we've said the whole way through, very controlled. Yeah. And that's what we need to, that's what we need. Again, like we keep saying about 2003, 2004, if one of them went down, you knew you had someone else that would come in, and the drop-off wasn't incredibly, the only place that you think, oh God, if something happens and the drop-off is bad, is Partey or Xhaka, really. Which, looking at the whole of the team, when you've got 9 other positions, oh well, okay, you can say Ramsdale as well, actually, if you want to be, So, there's 3 positions there. So we'll see. You never know. The more and more these guys play, the better they might become. I think Marquinhos is one to watch. Still, I know it's only been brief, but I like what I've seen.
Another clinical player, maybe.
Well, that's it. We mentioned that together. We said if he can be as clinical as what Pepe used to be, but he also does his defensive work and isn't so languid, then we've got a player there.
Yeah, I'll take a full of praise for him. Yeah,
exactly. We will wait and see. I mean, we were so controlled. I mean, we haven't brought it up yet. We were so controlled at the weekend. We could bring a 15-year-old on.
Should we talk on that before we end on the
I think
game?
You need to. It's history.
Yeah, it is. But
let's talk about history this week.
Yeah. It's funny on my TV they called Fabio Vieira Vieira, and that's not his name unless he's got a middle name. But that was interesting. I just saw it come up. But a 15-year-old comes on. Historic because it's the youngest player to play in the Premier League. We're the youngest team in the Premier League, the youngest player to come on in the Premier League. Arteta's comments were interesting on him. He kind of said, he didn't know too much about the player until in recent weeks. Per Mertesacker talked to him about him, and he felt he had this gut feeling that he should do it. But with obviously older players in the squad that were youngsters too that hadn't played in the first team. Lino Sousa was on the bench. I think Matt Smith was probably on the bench as well. I just want to know, what do you think his thought process is? I thought, it must be unbelievable for a 15-year-old player. I honestly hadn't heard of him until I saw him. I'd heard his name, but I hadn't heard of him much, watched him at all, till I saw him on the bench and then started looking him up. But what's your thought process here, Neil, in terms of why we did it, what it means? Is there a bigger meaning to it?
I hadn't heard of him at all. I even went on the website. I didn't find him because he's under 16, so he can't even be listed in the academy ranks. It's that ridiculous. Yeah. Apparently, he wasn't even allowed to change with the first team because he's a minor. I mean, that is insane.
No.
Yeah, that's right.
Well, I guess that's fair enough, yeah.
Because he's a minor, Jack. Okay. He's under 16 years old, so he wasn't allowed to change with the first team. And then he's waltzing on after doing his maths homework, and he's walking onto the pitch for the senior Arsenal team. I'm not worried at all. I feel. You know what the incredible thing is? He came on for Vieira, and Vieira's 7 years older than him, right? And you'd think that's a massive gap. And actually, Vieira's 22. That's just get your head around this. He was born in 2007. I mean, oh my God, I feel like a relic. He was born in 2007, this lad, and he must have impressed so much. Because you're not going to get in that team I don't think they're just in it saying, oh, look, we're 3-0 up, there's only 2 minutes left, let's make history. I don't think Arteta works that way. I just don't. I don't think it was, let's just create a bit of history. I think it's a statement of intent. Number one, he's showing all the other kids that you have a chance if you come to this academy. If you come here, you're going to get a chance. I think that's number one. But number two, I think the mathematics is simple. It's because he's probably very damn good. And yeah, you can't. I'm not going to expect to see him a lot of him because Arteta's already come round up and said, "Look, we will do this 1 step forwards and 3 step backwards." So I'm not expecting him to now feature in games where we're short in that area. I don't think that will happen. But I think it's a great statement of intent for the whole of the academy, for everyone who plays at Arsenal to say, look, you will have a chance. You will get a chance. It can happen. He's demonstrated it with some of the other youngsters, and it will happen. The only thing is, if there is a slight concern, the other slightly older kids might feel, well, hang on a minute, he's overlooked us. And you might have a little bit of concern as to their mentality, and they'll be happy for him, surely, if it's a close knit group, which I'm hoping it is, and that's what they create, the culture they're creating there. And I think Per Mertesacker is doing a tremendous job, by the way. So I think he's going to be very much running it the same way Arteta is, and building this kind of friendship between the players. And, we're all working as a team, we're all working together, and everyone's got their best interests at heart. That's why I think, again, touching on the Ben White, I don't think he's probably going to be too upset that he's been moved from his position. So I don't think it's so much of that, but there will be a slight concern. If say someone there at 17 or 18 was in that squad, they're thinking, well, how come I haven't got a chance? Because I'm doing really well as well. But I think there may be time for those players. I fully expect to see some of those players maybe feature in the Carabao Cup, especially if you progress in that cup. So it's not the be-all and end-all doom for them. I think it was a great, great ploy. I agreed with it. I loved it. And you know what? I saw him on the touchline. I thought, he don't look 15. He's a beast. Look at him. He looked, he didn't even look upstaged. He didn't even look frightened. I loved it. He walked on there as if he had been playing for years. Yeah. Honestly, from his facial expression, I thought, oh my God, he's going to be some player. So, I was so happy for him. Yeah. Brilliant.
Is there any concerns? I agree with that. Is there any concerns, James, that hasn't signed his contract yet? Is this a method of convincing a player to sign a contract, possibly? What happened with Amari Hutchinson and things like that? Or is there any concerns? Neil touched on it a little bit about, sort of the hierarchy of youngsters in order to work their way up, and he's not playing. I don't think he's featured for, under 23s or maybe the under 18s, but under 23s or anything like that yet. So, any concerns there?
No, that's all into it. You got to remember, just as much as people are praising this Amazon documentary, there's also the Academy one that's out at the moment, which is brilliant, by the way.
Is he in it?
It's excellent. It's excellent. I can't. To be fair, they focus on certain players, and he's not one of the main ones they focus on. However, since obviously what's been going on, there's been articles galore about the boy.
Yeah,
and they've said that he is the one. Mertesacker, Birchall have all said this is, and they reckon that, Fabregas, Wilshere.
I saw that.
They're like, this is
funny, isn't it? It's amazing how youngsters sometimes just crop up from our academy. Like Saka was a bit like that. Well, so carry on.
Yeah, well, you mentioned it before. This was many, many pods ago, wasn't it? Where you said that out of the class of 92, and I remember, you were right. Nicky Butt was the one that Ferguson would hamper at, and it was Giggsy that was the player in the end.
Nelson was the one out of this group.
Yes, that's what I was just about to say. Yeah,
sorry,
it was Reece Nelson galore.
Yeah,
and then all of a sudden it's like, well, no, you're pushed back down. Now.
There's an interview with Arteta saying he did a bit of what Xhaka did. Xhaka's been talking about coaching down the 16s. When Arteta was at Arsenal, he did a bit of that.
Yes.
And that's where he believed Nelson's going to be the player. Nelson is the one out of this group. They were all there. Smith Rowe, Saka, they're all there.
Yeah.
And it was quite incredible. Yeah, sorry, carry on.
No. I do believe a lot of this is they know that he's that good that they're like, bloody hell, we better sign. If we show him a path in, maybe he will sign the contract. Which that happens with all sorts of different players, mate. That don't just happen with kids. But I thought just what a lovely moment. I was thinking to myself, it was my 31st birthday, and I was thinking, what was I doing 16 years ago when I was 15? And I'm like, wasn't that. I know that much.
But I agree with you both on the point of we are saying this is the place for young players to be both homegrown and international. A bit like, I mean, I don't know if they're doing it so much, but Dortmund were that, weren't they? Not, you know, they were that for a long time, and maybe still are to a degree. Like, if you want to play first team football quickly and you're a top level young player, where do you go? You're not going anywhere but Arsenal in this league. I mean, Amari Hutchinson, he's never featuring for the Chelsea first team. He's just not doing it. Certainly not in the near future. No way quicker than what he would have done for Arsenal. You know, you're not going to that club.
Yeah, I mean, we're not loaning like 42 of them out to clubs that are also on the payroll. You know, okay, that might not happen at Chelsea anymore because that regime is long gone. However, you know, most of the loans that we do make, I think, are of the view of potentially that they're going to progress into our team. If you look at Patino at the moment, scoring again for Blackpool at the weekend. So it's
another one to watch, isn't he?
Yeah, it's all about how are they going to integrate when they come back with us.
Yeah, absolutely. I think
or they're loans that are used to potentially help get an increased value for them. I mean, if you currently look at Balogun, he's absolutely steamrolling the French league. And that is good for a reason, from the point of view of, if he comes back to us, brilliant. However, if we can't find a way for him in, he's been over there in France and he's at what, a mid-road? I think they're about mid-table type club in
below,
France.
I think, yeah.
Yeah. However, one of the silly ones will end up buying him, potentially.
Yeah. Yeah,
exactly. You've got to remember, PSG used to have Choupo-Moting for a while. They had Icardi for a while.
Yeah, and that's a proof of good academy too. You know, the Iwobis and Willocks are proof of a good academy as well. Yeah. You know, when you let them go for a good fee. I think both of those fees are looking very good. You know, despite Iwobi doing well at Everton, you're still looking fantastic at 35 million coming in for him.
Yeah, Iwobi's looking really good at Everton, mate.
Yeah. Well, he was always a good footballer. I was always reluctant to lose him.
I'm very, very impressed with him, especially in this new role. Really impressed. Yeah,
I have to watch him a bit more. But overall, brilliant performance. But I think our best performance of the season against a team that was probably one of the trickiest that we've played, I would say, certainly at home. We saw how they, beat United 4-0. They've given lots of top teams problem there at home, and their top players like Ivan Toney, they just weren't in the game. They barely touched the ball, barely in significant areas. There was one point where Toney was kind of ahead of Saliba, and Saliba just glides, trots back to him like this galloping flipping horse, and I'm just like, it's unbelievable. It's like Colo Torre, Sol Campbell years all over again, isn't it? It's just unbelievable. But with more, I don't want to say more of anything, but so assured on the ball, Saliba as well, like so confident for his age. I mean, when we were talking about Sol Campbell and Colo Torre, they were 24, 25, 26, 28 ish. You know, these are 21, 22-year-olds. So it's almost quite just exciting to think what we could have, if he signs that thing. But quick touching on the North London derby and getting predictions as well. Obviously, can't really talk about who's going to play because internationals just all over the place. Great to know that maybe 5 or 6 of our starters are still going to be staying put for the next 2 weeks, which I don't know. I don't look at Tottenham's team, obviously, but I don't know if they have that many staying put. But that Brazilian trio plus the Ben Whites and the Odegaard, if he does stay, but it sounds like he's gone. Can't believe Tierney's gone, which is crazy. But Zinchenko probably stayed behind. I think he did stay behind. Zinchenko, so there's a few there. But Neil, they are going to play, Conte style it has been for every club to play on the counter, and he's got the perfect team to do that because he's got elite forwards, in fairness. But they're going to try and feed off our mistakes. I'm sure of it. And I in terms of how this game will go, in terms of who dominates the ball, I'm kind of feeling that we will, but we can't be as vulnerable or and switch off like we did against United, because otherwise they will punish us. They are really clinical. I mean, I even watched them against Leicester, and Leicester are a terrible side. They're all over the place. But if you watch that game for large periods, you'd wonder who was the team that won the game 6-2. You really would. I mean, you genuinely would. I mean, Leicester would carve them open at will, but then they just forget about their defensive part of the game. And we can't afford to do that. And I don't think we will do that if we have, if our minds are on it and we have the right players out there. But it's a huge game, Neil, isn't it?
Huge. I mean, Conte will obviously look at how Man United beat us. That's the only game we've lost. And he'll deploy the same tactics as they do anyway. So that's what we've got to kind of stop. We've got to stop those counters. So Arteta's really got to do his homework on there. He's really got to focus on that, because I think for me, that's really the only vulnerability in us at the moment. It's just that. So if we can iron that out, then we're going to be even tougher to beat. I think you're right. I think we're going to have most of the possession, hopefully anyway, touch wood. The way we're playing, I don't see why not. If you're telling me that I didn't watch the Tottenham-Leicester game, if you're telling me even Leicester were carving them apart, then we'll definitely do that. The difference is I think we'll probably convert more of the chances. I know Leicester scored 2, but I'm hoping that we will create more and we'll maybe convert more, hopefully. It's just got to be that mentality at the back. We've got to be switched on completely, and hopefully Arteta doesn't make that mistake. If we do go behind, even if we're controlling the game, he doesn't make 3 substitutions at one go. Let's hope he doesn't do that. And I think he would have learned from his mistake, I'm sure. And I'm fully confident. I'm glad it's at home, the first game against them, and not at their ground. I'm really pleased for that. I so want the lads to create this, and the fans, which they have been, bless them, to create this feeling of being for other teams coming there and it being a fortress. And I really do hope that we literally don't lose any games at the Emirates this season. That would be massive for us. So, although it's going to be tough, any North London derby is, in any circumstance, even when we were the Invincibles, North London derbies are tough. They're always going to be, no matter what the previous matches have been and what the form is like on both teams. It's going to be a tough game, but I think we will have just a little bit too much for them. The only player I always worry about, not so much Kane, it's always Son. I always worry about Son. And if we can stop him, because he came on as a sub, he's in it. He's in the mix, and he comes on a substitute, scores 3 goals. So it's him. For me, he's the player we've got to stop. If we can somehow just stifle him, we can be sensible at the back. I think we will win this game. It's going to be tight though, and as it always is. So, if you want my prediction, I'm going to go for a 2-1, and I will say first scorer. I'm going to say Martinelli. I just want him to score a goal. Yep,
like that. James, anything to add?
Yeah, no. Neil's took my prediction, so I'm going to have to change it. I'm going to go for 3-1. Now, I know, I wanted 2-1, but I'll take the 3-1. And I think we just got to do like what Sporting did to them. Just hammer them down the sides. Their fullbacks are terrible.
I agree with that, especially on the right side. I do agree with that. I think Emerson Royale defensively is shocking.
Just go at them. Just have a go. And I'm going to go 3-1, like I said, and I'm going to switch from what Neil said. I'm going to go with Xhaka because he scored against Man United. So, we talked about how he's one of the younger ones, but he's our big game player now. I'm going to go Bukayo Saka 3-1. Let's do it.
Oh, Saka 3-1. Yeah, massive game.
Same as last season, wasn't it? Was it 3-1 at home?
It was, yeah. We were 3-0 up, and then we got a little edgy towards the end. It was interesting though, because last season, this is how different the game in my head would go. Was last season we were 3-0 up at half time. Almost all of our goals were actually on the counter. Yeah, if you remember it. It wasn't like we were. So I expect this game to be a lot different. And look, they smashed us 3-0 late last season, but we had Holding and Cedric up against Son. This time we're going to have White and Saliba. So if they're fit, of course. Obviously I know Saliba's been carrying something a little bit, but there's your difference there. And obviously they've got players that have come into their team and improved them as well. But there's a big change there for us in key positions. So big moment. I'm going to go 4-1.
Wait, hang on.
4-1.
I have to just say.
Well, you take the results.
Did you say 4-1 to Tottenham?
No, that's joking, mate. I'm saying that. Must be joking. I ain't giving them anything.
Hang on a second, James.
Arsenal,
Suddenly we've just fallen back to sleep, and this is a dream.
I know.
Because
I like to surprise you a little bit on this podcast.
Hang on, Jax. I have to stop you because very rare for you to give a win against a so-called 6-6.
Very rare for me to get it right, by the way.
But 4 what?
4-1.
Okay.
I'm going 4-1. I'm going 4-1. I'm going to believe.
Wow.
I believe
Is that just tea in that mug?
Yeah, it's just tea. I think I was checking.
Jack's finally taking up alcohol because he can't put it out.
I was going to say.
This was coming out.
No, I know. I believe. And I heard you might be sitting with the Ashburton Army, Neil, if John's comments to me are right. He said you might.
Yeah, possibly. I mean, he hasn't got back to me since my last comment, so you never know with him. But
yeah, you never know. If you get yourself a couple of tickets. But, well, if you are, then you've got to give us the atmosphere. But I mean, anything can happen, like you said, in North London derby. But I think we are the better football team. We are the better football team by some distance, just like I felt against Man U, but we can't make those mistakes. So can we turn up? Can we not make so? Can we be error-free? That's the hard part because they play on mistakes. They play on the numbers. It's easier to play in their way in the sense of chase, Harry, wait for a mistake and pounce. But I think we're ready. It'd be very interesting to see sort of what team we have going into it. We'll be talking more about that.
It's the first game as well, isn't it? So it's big. It sets the tone for the weekend. Because
yes, and that's the hard part after winning national.
The Manchester derby's the Sunday, isn't it? So
is it? Blood.
Yeah. So.
Can you imagine if things go our way, though? Can you imagine if we get the win and that ends up being a draw the other game?
Exactly. We've got to set the pace, which, like we said earlier, this weekend, everything was done and then we could do what we wanted to do after. I'm like, no, we got to set the tone here.
Yeah,
yes.
I want us chatting to I want Arteta on the phone to every international manager talking about next week's games. Hey, play them this week. I want them rested next week. I want them sitting in the ice bath during their games. Okay, thank you very much. Okay, Klopp's done it for years. He's had his 7-year itch. Okay, he's out of his inhalers. Okay, Pep's still doing it. So it's our turn now. Okay, it's our turn now. You start protecting. You want our players going to the World Cup fully fit and healthy, then look after them right now because you're going to need. France, they're going to be starting Saliba. I'm telling you, and a lot of our players are going to be starters in their national clubs. Yeah. So that's what we need.
France has got 15 players out, so I'm like, if Saliba's not going to start for them with 15 out, there's no way. 15
out, jeez. I was hoping to see over the next couple of days just us pull a couple. We're not sending him, or he's feeling a little niggle. I've not seen much of that. But anyway, boys, it's been a fantastic chat. We will be back, probably not for a closer prediction before the Tottenham game, but after it, and staying positive. Top of the league, got to enjoy the next couple of weeks. If you can't enjoy the next couple of weeks of an international break when you're not playing and you're top of the league, then you're never going to enjoy an international break, which is probably what we should be doing because they are dreadful. But up the Arsenal, top of the league, kits are unbelievable, aren't they, this year? Aren't they? Been wearing a pink number a little bit, loving it. But boys, enjoy your day at work. Thank you. We're on at Purely Arsenal FP on Twitter and YouTube, Spotify, at Purely Arsenal FP on Twitter. Look at us there, all our handles are on there. And up the Arsenal. Come on, boys, let's go.
Come on.
Let's go.